Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this trap right here. This is an animal snare trap that they use up in the central mountain range of Taiwan. The tribes such as the Seediq, the Truku, Atayal, Bunun, Seediq, and a couple others use it to catch things such as ground birds and muntjacs. And so in the Seediq language they call this the Tequn. So let's begin. Okay, so aside for a spring pole, these three items are pretty much all you need to make the trap. So the first item here we have is just a nice straight stick. Depending on what you're going after, you want it of varying sizes, but generally a good rule of thumb, you always want it to reach, you always want it to be about like 1 foot off the ground at least. So this should be a fine size. People obviously a lot of the time have it longer and stuff. But anything from this to even just full arm length is fine. Okay, so first thing we want to do here is sharpen one of the ends to a point. It doesn't matter really which end you sharpen. I'm just going to sharpen the thicker end. Okay, so we have this one end sharpened to a point. And then the other two things we have to do is cut a notch into here, and then also make our string. Alright, so now we're ready to carve in our notch. Our notch has to be large enough to snugly fit in our trigger stick here. So we just need to mark it out first. I'm going to mark it out on the thinner side, and then if we make any mistakes, we can always just move to the thicker side. Right, so I got it marked out. All we do now is we need to cut in. Alright, so now you see we've got our notch carved in there. You see, one thing I want to point out here is the bottom's pretty flat. There's not too much of a taper. And so you take a look. It fits our stick really nice and snugly, and that's what we want. So now all we have to do is make the string. Okay, so for the string, I'm just using hemp, and I'm using brown string this time because I'm all out of just plain old white. And so you want to take a fairly good amount because you need a lot of string in order to get all the way to your spring stick and also make your snare. So then take more than you need, and then we'll start. Okay, so what you do, you want to put the two ends together and then run down the length of the string until you find where both of them meet up. Okay, so in this case it's right here. So what we want to do first, let me just get this all out of the way here. What you want to do first, twist both sides the same direction until it forms a loop. It's like right there, and that's going to be the start of it. So then it marks out the center. Next, what you do, all you need to do is roll both sides the same direction. You could roll it on your leg, just do it in the hands or whatever. I just do it this way because it's a bit faster and there's a lot to make, so I'll be back when it's completed. Alright, so our string is now all finished. Let's get to setting the trap. Okay, so we got our string here. We have to first make our snare before anything else. So what I usually do is I make a little bit of a loop here, and then I just take it and tie it around with an overhand knot. And then that makes a little bit of a loop. There we go. And so with this loop, to make the snare, all you have to do is loop it back around itself. Then you got a nice little snare there. Okay, so next thing we have to do is figure out where to tie off our trigger stick. So first things first, what we do is we put our snare over the trigger stick like this, string it through the same loop. And so we want our snare to be fairly big, so give it a whole bunch of string. You see, right here, this is about how large you want your snare to be. So we're going to want to tie it off at right about here. So let's do that just now. Just gonna do a clove hitch like usual. You want to leave a little bit of slack on it, just in case you go too far. So, whoop. Clove hitch onto the end. You want to have it right by the end here. Get that nice and tight, and wrap it around a couple times. Then all you do, just tie it off. Here we go, our stick is now tied off. Now we can tie it onto the spring pole. Okay, so right here I'm using the same spring pole that I used for my my dangal. Mainly because I don't have any spare trees or branches I could cut to make a spring pole. But you could stick something in the ground, or you could just attach it to a branch and pull it downwards. Anything that's springy enough and can provide lots of tension. Okay, it's all tied on now. And once again, you know you've done it right when if you pull it, the string won't move around. Okay, so next thing we have to do here is pound our post stick into the ground. So you want this notch to face away from the spring pole. My spring pole is over here. You can see the string. So we're going to pound it into the ground here. Have to make sure that notch is facing directly away from the spring pole. Alright, now to set this trap, what we do, we take our trigger stick and our snare, and so our trigger stick will go right into the notch we cut into the post stick. Make sure it's nice and snug there. So this right here is stable. If you don't touch it, nothing will happen, but if you push this in that direction, or pull it in this direction, or push it in this direction, it'll come out like that. So what we want to do to make it into a trap, we're going to take our snare here, make sure it has lots of string on it, bring it like all the way to the end. We're going to loop it around our trigger stick so that it sits through the loop, and then we wrap it around a couple times to make sure that when it's caught on something, it'll pull the stick. Make sure we got a loop on the bottom there, make sure it's nice and tight there, and then everything's ready. So say when an animal like a ground bird or a muntjac comes along, the way they behave, they like to duck under objects and just go through objects because they're so small. So it's going to come through this loop, and they don't usually care too much about if they're bumping into anything when they're walking. So their leg's going to be caught onto the string, and when that happens, it'll release it, the spring pole will come up, and when they try and run away, this snare will just tighten on them. Okay, so that just about does it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of Indigenous Taiwanese trapping videos, check out this playlist right here where I've linked a whole bunch of videos I made previously on making various Indigenous Taiwanese traps and how to set them. If you want to see where I learned to make these traps, check out the playlist I've linked below. If you want to see more Indigenous Taiwanese crafts and other things, please consider subscribing. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and bye!